TC, what you got?
All right. So we have a lot of reaction online to your YouTube videos. Most days, I would say almost every single day, there is an interview or a commentary or something like that that is taped, recorded, videotaped right here in studio, using the cameras that people are looking at us now, and ends up on your YouTube channel.
True.
As I like to say, it's a new way to listen to radio because guess what? You get to watch it. So it's another dynamic. It's another way to look at it. So here are some comments that Jacob gathered and gave to us so that you could comment on what people are saying about the videos. Okay, here we go.
Will you remind me what was the subject
yes,
matter?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
No,
I don't mind
clearly.
because like on television, I don't mind answering in a vacuum, but at least jog my memory as to subject matter.
Okay, I will jog your memory. Okay, so number one, the video was the United States of Secession. Did I say it right?
Secession. No, you're thinking of the TV show. That was always my fear on TV, is that I was going to say Succession.
Michael, I swear, for that hour.
Secession.
Last Saturday, for that whole hour, from 9 to 10, I was like,
Right.
please don't say it wrong. Please don't say it wrong. Because it's embedded in my head this whole time.
This was Stephen Marsh who wrote the book. Stephen Marsh, who wrote the book, who got us thinking in these terms. Are we headed for secession?
Okay. And Scott S. commented, I think a likely potential danger of the breakup of the U.S. would be the power vacuum that would result, and the question of what country or countries might rise to fill the space. Of course, China immediately comes to mind.
Yeah, well, I think I said that on radio or on television, that if first of all, I don't think the United States is going the way of secession. I don't think we will divide by the red and the blue states. The more provocative question, and I'm not dodging that point, I'll come back to it.
Scott, hang in there.
Scott, the more provocative question was, will the map of the United States in 50 years look exactly as it looks today? And my recollection is that we had a lot of voting and that the no vote carried it, not by a lot, but by...
It was close.
A relatively close margin. And I'm in the category as well. I'm not sure in what respects the map doesn't look the same in 50 years as it looks today, but I had Jasper Johns on the brain because I had just been at the Philadelphia Museum of Art viewing a Jasper Johns exhibition, and I stood, TC, in front of that iconic American flag that he painted and noted that there were only 48 stars on it, and it was painted in the 1950s. And I started to think to myself, what makes me think that the U.S. map in 50 years will look the same as it looks today? It probably won't.
So many people wanted to bring up Puerto Rico, Washington,
that would change
Guam,
it. Or
Washington, D.C.
There's somewhat of a separatist movement in Oregon where conservative Oregonians in what part? The southeast corner, I think it would be, would like to join Idaho. So if that change were ever made, then the map wouldn't look the same that it looks today. Now, to this point, yes, one of the downsides is if the United States is not there to provide balance to both China and Russia, then, who would? Who is going to tame the big bear? That is one of the downsides of secession, because I don't even think Texas would do so.
And then the follow-up question was, what would happen with NATO, the UN, and all of the alliances that we're part of?
Who would NATO allow to join? I mean, right now, the big debate is whether Ukraine will join NATO. Can you imagine the debate where is NATO going to allow California to join or Texas to join? They're fun barroom conversations. I hope and I pray that they don't actually play out.
So the next video title was Mom Fights to Save Daughter from Fentanyl.
Lori Steves.
Whew.
You don't have to prompt me on that.
No, I sure don't. So this was very intense.
Yeah.
You had her on CNN for a shorter interview just by nature of television. It was a shorter interview. So she came on to SiriusXM. It was a longer interview. You did it via video so that you could see her, you could talk to her. And so everybody can watch that here on YouTube.
Can I say something about it?
Please.
Seattle area mom who has lost a son recently to addiction, now trying to resume contact with her daughter, who she hasn't physically seen in 9 years, leaves Seattle, packs up all her belongings, goes to San Francisco, where she spends the next 3.5 months, gets a job. Her daughter is homeless and in the Tenderloin district. I've been to the Tenderloin district, okay? It's a city part of San Francisco with a terrible homeless problem. Businesses are there. The Hastings Law School is in the Tenderloin. The homeless have totally taken over that part of San Francisco, and nobody seems to know what to do about it. That's where her daughter is and addicted.
The user, who is Mumra7, says, "For once, I agree with Smerconish. I indeed would care more for that deer. No one put a gun to their head the very first time
Jesus.
they took an illicit drug. Sorry, don't feel sorry." Would you like to comment on that?
Ooh. So I guess what they're making reference to is the fact that close in time to when I did this interview with a mom trying to save her daughter, I came to work on an icy day and a deer was in close proximity to my car, didn't jump in front of my car, but was in close proximity to my car and fell on the ice. And I said that I felt pained about that deer and worried later in the day about that deer. I hope that deer, I saw the deer sort of scamper to its feet and run off into the woods, but I worried as to whether the deer was okay. We've become so desensitized about homelessness in this country that if I go out to dinner with my family in Center City, Philadelphia, as we did last week, and somebody is laying on a vent, I keep moving without any afterthought whatsoever.
It was a really honest response.
What I don't like is the tone of this person, because I don't agree with the callousness of this person. I care about that homeless person, but I'm just desensitized to them. So I don't, that implies, that comment, that YouTube comment suggests or implies that my attitude was screw the homeless, and that's not true.
Or drug users, and that's absolutely not true. Because if you watch or listen to the interview that you had with Laurie Stevens, oh my God.
I wouldn't have done the interview twice if that were my attitude.
Third video, title, "Is Violence Against the U.S. Government Ever Justified?"
Yeah, I loved that. We had that conversation close in time to January 6th. It was a survey question. Actually, TC, here's what happened. It's a good thing I remember all these segments, isn't it?
I'm impressed.
So a survey came out close in time to January 6th, and it said that 34%, I want to say 34, close to a third, I think it was 34% of Americans said that they think violence is sometimes necessary against the government. I was on CNN that day talking about it and then talked about it on POTUS. And I said, it's an alarming statistic when you read it. Like, oh my God, a third of Americans would in some circumstance take up arms against their government. And then I said, upon reflection, I think I'm in that category. Now, I'm not in that category storming into the Capitol on January 6th because of the 2020 election, but who among us wouldn't be in that category in 1776? Weren't the 34% indicative of those who took up arms against the crown in 1776? I think so.
Right. So you'll be interested then in Joseph A's comment, who says, "These are scary statistics, and I would add that you're including yourself within the 34% who believe that violence against the government can sometimes be justified has an unstated implication. And that implication is that you would see violence as being justified if essentially our democracy has collapsed already, as in the case of a coup. So to me, these statistics are essentially a harbinger of the perceived survivability of our democracy. I personally am an independent and within the 59% who does not believe that violence is justified against the government.
Okay.
But I'm making the assumption that we have an intact democracy, and I'm trusting the framework of our democracy to be able to handle the types of issues that arose last January."
To which I would say, when Washington crossed the Delaware and attacked the Hessians in Trenton, recognizing that the Hessians were mercenaries hired by the crown, but was he not being violent against the government?
We're going to have to keep up these comments. That is fantastic.
Okay. Well, I enjoy them. So if you're watching the videos on YouTube, please continue to do so. And post comments and share them with a friend.
Clowns to the left of me.